Hey there, YouTube. Today I'm bringing you a deck list of zombies again. So I know I've been putting up a lot of zombie stuff. It is my favorite deck of Edison format. Really anything zombies, actually Gladiator Beasts. I love Gladiator Beasts. But zombies, super awesome. And it's a deck that I really want to focus on. And there's two very specific reasons for that. And it's extra deck monsters. That being Darkened Dragon, which I know is also very usable in other things like Vayu Turbo or Black Wings or whatever. But the second one being Revived King Hades. So the reason I really highlight these two is because I think in a format that's surrounded by things like set monsters, Stardust Dragons, Titanials, really anything, I guess Darken kind of plays around, weirdly plays around Titanial, or not at all. But Darken being able to send any monster and send, not destroy, does that be face up or whatever, is a huge reason to want to really put a focus on Darken as a monster. And Revived King, very similar, that when he runs over Treeborn Frog, if he runs over Gravekeeper Spy, Raikou, if he runs over Sangan, Mizuki, just whatever, those monsters will never get their effect skin for the rest of the game, which I think is crazy. Snowman Eater, anything that is basically destroyed by him as a result of battle, to include even if they're flip monsters, if they're destroyed by him, they will not get their effects, which means, like I said, Treeborn Frog will never return from the graveyard. So I think these two are extremely valuable in Edison format, and certainly a reason to want to put a focus on zombies, because this is something that zombies have that no other decks have. So I think that's huge. It's really tough because this needs Plague Spreader and a zombie. Plague Spreader obviously being at 1, not great. Not great. And this just requires any tuner plus non-dark tuners. So realistically, for me, it's going to be, I have Chaos Sorcerer, I have, Malicious. I was blanking really hard. So those are probably going to be the main ways, but they pretty much just out the entirety of Edison format. I think that's really something to focus on. So going into the deck list, I like zombies because when you look at the top decks in Edison format, we'll start with traps, as always. So we have 2 bottomless, 1 called on, and so it's really just 2 bottomless and a bunch of 1-ofs I think kind of fit the best. What I think are probably the 2 best traps being Trap, Dust Shoot, and Solemn. If you open up these 2 cards, you're guaranteed to stop your opponent from really just having their 2 best cards, and you get to choose what their 2 best cards are for them. And obviously, the knowledge from Dust Shoot can just straight up win you games. 1 Mirror Force, 1 Torrent. That's gonna bother me. I have something inside of the Mirror Force sleeve. Hold on. There we go. 1 Mirror Force, 1 Torrent, 1 Phoenix Windblast. So this is very player preference-y. It's strange that I see a lot of people who don't like this in zombies. In their mind, zombies is more of a speed deck, not a control deck, and this is very much a control card. Now you'll see as I go through, I have like Plague Spreader Zombie, Mizuki, Malicious, maybe a few other cards I want in the graveyard based on niche situations, but certainly those 3 cards. So Phoenix Windblast, obviously, I think is probably the best card in the format to get cards out of hand while doing something to your opponent, interrupting their strategy, whatever it may be. Lightning Vortex, certainly another option, but I think just for reactability and just setting them back a turn, as well as hitting things like, again, any of the synchros besides Thought Ruler, Phoenix Windblast, probably the best. And the last card that I run is Return from a Different Dimension. So in this format, Mizuki and Plague Spreader are both at 1. Those are really, I don't want to say those are your win conditions, but those are your win conditions. Between those 2 removing themselves, Malicious removing itself, Chaos Sorcerer, Dark Arm Dragon, DD Crows, Bottomless Trap Holes, Deep Prisons, I think there's a lot of value to be had out of 1 return. So return, I don't think return will ever put you in a win more position where if you're already winning a game, it'll just win you even more. You didn't need it. I think it keeps you in games that you should not win. I think return definitely just puts you in a game that you have no business being inside of. You can play towards this the whole game. If you draw early game, a little tough. But definitely if you play towards it and in your back of your mind, you always think, I could just draw return as a win condition at any given turn. That's probably what you want to play towards. I'm trying to think any situation where it's just like, it's a win more, and I can't think of any, like I said, just brings you back. But just even bring back 1 Mizuki to put it back in the graveyard somehow, I think that alone is more than enough reason to play return. With Mizuki being at 1, you want to get its effect off as many times possible, and return bring back that Mizuki, plus all the other ways and stuff to bring back. Huge fan of it. Huge fan of Return. This trap lineup in general, I don't know. Edison formats, I'm not quite super familiar with it. I've played it a lot. I've looked at it. Played it during Edison. But really just looking at all the one-ofs, spells, and traps, it's very different from GOAT format, where typically I would just line up 2s or 3s of everything and maybe only one copy of a one-of card. But Edison format's just different. It makes you so ready for so many different scenarios. I did choose Bottomless over Deep Prison. No very particular reason, but I think hitting the monster on summon is better than letting them establish a field and then really having that advantage of having an established field. Going into the spells, I have 3 Book of Moon. So Book of Moon in a lot of decks, very common at 3. And I've had a lot of people look at me and they've asked me, like, how's 3 Book of Moon zombies? I think it's super solid. Zombies typically have low attack points, so in order to get over relatively normal things, be it monarchs or like Cyber Dragon, really anything, Book of Moon is pretty crucial to get over a lot of those things. Blackwing Synchros, all that type of stuff, pretty crucial. And just being able to kind of shut down an opponent's play and end their turn before it can ever really do anything, I can't really think of a reason not to run 3 Book of Moon. I also run some flip effects, so it can just be used for those 2. I run 1 Book of Life. So the reason I only run 1 as opposed to 2, possibly even 3, because it's that DD Crow effect plus revival effect is insane, completely insane. But drawing this early game, when you don't have a setup, will lose you games. And if there's anything I found about zombies, and it's very strange to me, maybe it's my shuffling techniques, maybe it's my luck, I don't know. For some reason, even just getting 1 zombie in the graveyard, just setting up that first zombie, it can be tough. It can be extremely tough. The way I've seen it so far is that zombies is a deck that relies on certain things to happen early game in order to be effective mid to late game. Whereas when you look at, and it's also dependent on how your opponent plays. If you look at something like those popular decks, be it the Lightsworn Dragons, Vayu, Diva Hero, whatever, they play their game plan independent of what the opponent's player is, what the opponent's play is. Zombies, for me, have been very reactive on how are they playing. I think Flame Bell's very much the same ways. How do they play kind of dictates how you play. And that's what makes them a little bit weaker, but at the same time, when you do look at those very popular top-tier decks that continuously win, the thing that they have is they're able to explode literally out of nowhere. You could have 0 cards in with Vayu, and for whatever reason, just from your draw turn, depending on whatever you have in graveyard, how late in the game it is or whatever, you could end the field with 2 to 3 synchros. Zombies, I think, also are one of those decks due to Mizuki, Plague Spreader, whatever, that also have that ability. But again, it depends a lot on how are they playing that allows you to make your plays to how you play. And I don't think plays that you make in zombies are nearly as safe as plays you make other decks. Like Zombie Master, I think is a fantastic card. But because of Book of Moon, really Bottomless Trap Hole, those 2 cards almost exclusively make it super risky. So I do only run the 1 Book of Life because just drawing it early game can just straight up lose you the duel. 1 Emergency Teleport. So I am running Emergency Teleport with 2 Krebins as opposed to something like 2 Divas. And it's really player preference in my opinion. So I do also run Tomato. So Krebin searchable by Emergency Teleport and Tomato. And maybe Tomato is a card that I want to push up to 3. I'm the player that I like to have early field presence in the form of recruiters, whatever it might be. Tomato's perfect for that and just searches out those Krebins even more. Teleport is specifically the reason that I chose Krebins over something like Deep Sea Diva. With Plague Spreader at 1, the deck desperately needs more tuners. Gale, certainly a good card. I opted out of Gale because it doesn't give you that crucial Goblin Zombie plus level 2 equals Brionic, which is really your most powerful play to get some of those cards out of hand, clear their field, and just build your board, swing for game as soon as possible. Game state dependent. And Emergency Teleport, that ability to just summon a monster, teleport, and just special summon, I think that's extremely crucial. It can be bad, and you can draw Krebins, but at the same time, a first turn Krebins, unless they have like mind control or brain control, turn 1 Krebins is pretty solid. It guarantees that you'll have that tuner for next turn. It blocks like Shura blocks Full Helm Knight. Block really intact, obviously. They have to waste some kind of resource to get rid of it, whether it be Smashing Ground, Brain Control, Mind Control, summon Cyber Dragon, sack for Caius, whatever. They have to lose resources to get rid of a turn 1 Krebins, which is crazy because you can just summon Krebins, pass. They're probably not getting over it. Your turn, summon Goblin Zombie, synchro out, get that Goblin Zombie search. It's crazy. So it's actually really cool. So a huge fan of Emergency Teleport and Krebins and just being searchable through Mystic Tomato. I think the rest of it, actually we'll go to this one that's not very standard. I also run Pot of Avarice. Still undecided on this. Pot of Avarice always seems as a pretty solid card. The ability to recycle Dark Arm, Gores, Chaos Sorcerer, Zombies for some reason if I don't want them in the graveyard, and I'm like, I have to get to these somehow. Any of the synchros, because you are going to synchro a lot, and just being able to draw those 2 cards. Those 2 cards, always crucial. Still in between, because I also run Rykos, so Rykos can mill monsters and get it back. I think Pot of Avarice, I'm at 42 cards right now, would probably be one of the first ones I drop, either for another card or just get closer to 40. The rest is just kind of standard. Foolish Burial, still undecided if I want to keep it, but I mean, I can't think of a reason not to have it. Burial, let me move this out of the shadows. Brain Control, MST, Heavy Storm. So that lines up all the spells and going into the monsters. Definitely some, I want to say interesting choices here, but I'm going to run this in different, we'll start with like the light monsters. So I'm just running a very small light package of triple Raikou with 1 Chaos Sorcerer. I don't know, Raikou's interesting. It can occasionally hit you a really good mill, and you just end up dumping a Malicious, Mizuki, Plague Spreader, and it just gets your plays there. You dump those Goblin Zombies or Pyramid Turtles or whatever early game to make that book alive, Zombie Master, Ill Blood, whatever live. Chaos Sorcerer, obviously you run a few lights in the extra deck too, so I think overall you have, what, 4, 5 Armory Arm, Magical Android, Triple Raikou. So no problem, because that's 5 lights right there. Pretty common to go into, plus the Raikous for this. Something that I have looked into and thought about, obviously Charge the Light Brigade. If I'm going for the mill with Raikou, Charge the Light Brigade obviously gets that same thing. And there's never anything wrong with building your own hand. I think the more you can build your own hand, build your own graveyard, the more likely you are to win. The Raikous, I'm kind of indifferent on. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of random milling. Maybe sometimes you'll get it. But what really succeeds with Raikou is you have to get rid of like Royal Oppressions. Royal Oppression and back rows in general. Just that is what, obviously a weakness of every deck, but the more you can stop your opponent from playing and get like really interacting with you as a player, the more you're going to win with zombies. Like that's a fact. Vayu, Lightsworn, these decks, like Dragons specifically, they can just play through back rows. For whatever reason, they're able to just dump out 3-4 monsters a turn. When you're in zombies, and from what I've seen, like your normal summons and like that first special summon of the turn, super crucial. So getting that Raikou to flip to destroy one of their back rows just to get that out of the way, super, super crucial. This could be realistically be like Breakers, Dust Tornadoes, something else, but I think the flexibility of having it plus being able to run Chaos Sorcerer, totally worth it. And Chaos Sorcerer is just a powerhouse card. It really is. Just being able to go special summon, banish something from the field, whatever it might be. Maybe someone might say I don't have enough lights, but I've yet to run into a situation where it's just like, Chaos Sorcerer's been bad. So that's kind of like the tiny little light package. Something I did think about was Cyber Dragon, also a very cool card, but maybe I'd run it over Ill Blood. Right now I am running an Ill Blood, but whatever. We'll go more into kind of like the tomato targets, I guess. So I do run the one of Mystic Tomato, who searches out a huge portion of the deck. I didn't have this at first, but honestly, just for what it does, I couldn't imagine not running it, especially if I'm running the 2 Krebins. So I've kind of already explained Krebins, explained Tomato. It kind of mirrors an early, or really a later format Teledad. A late 2000, was it Teledad 2008? I think it was late 2008, early 2009, where it's just like 1 to 2 tomatoes, maybe only 1 emergency teleport with 2 Krebins, and they ran like the Royal Oppression, things like that. I'm kind of mimicking that in this little thing. Of Of course, they obviously had like 3 malicious, and we only have 2 malicious, but 2 malicious is still very good. We have great ways to get to the graveyard. Yeah, this card alone is, if it ever has a home outside of heroes, like it's in zombies. It's insane how easy it is just to get this card off and just get free cards, get free synchros is great. One of Sangan, again, searches out pretty much everything, kind of a duplicitous goblin zombie. I don't even know if that's the right word, but just being able to search all this other stuff super great. And then I run 2 of the pretty much the boss monsters, one of Gorse and the one of Darkhound. And really these cards right here, between these 2 and Chaos Sorcerer, I was milling these so often with Raikou. I was like, I have to have Pot of Avarice just because Dark Arm just wins the game. So that's that part. And then we'll go into the zombie lineup. We have triple Pyramid Turtle, double Goblin Zombie, 1 Reaper, 1 Zombie Master, the 1 of Plague Spreader, the 1 of Mizuki, and a 1 of Illblood. So definitely much higher zombie count than what I initially had always practiced with. I think the initial zombie lineup that I'd been using for a lot of the zombie decks I built was just these 2 and these 3. So these 5 total. What I found was using just these 5, unless you pretty much always draw this turn 1 Goblin Zombie, you will never get to any of your zombie cards fast enough. It is crucial, absolutely crucial, that you get to Plague Spreader as early as possible, and really Mizuki. These 2 are what's going to make your engine going. For whatever reason, Mizuki's at 1 this format instead of 3. I don't know who decided that. Plague Spreader, I guess, makes sense because every deck was using it. In Zombie Master, I would love to run 2 copies, but like I said, it is so weak to Book of Moon, Bottomless, any kind of interruption. Book of Moon, really the biggest one, that I opted out of running more copies of it. And if you draw it turn 1 and you don't see other zombie monsters, that's pretty weak too. Pyramid Turtle has been great. I originally thought you're just way too slow. In a format of Raikou's, Caius's, whatever, like Pyramid Turtle's probably not going to be great. But really, if you just set this turn 1, or if they have a monster and you just crash it to build your field, it gets you going. It's literally what you need to run, especially because, again, I don't know why they hit zombies so hard with the Goblin Zombie instead of being at 3. Is at 2, Plague Spreader at 1, Mizuki at 1. Perplexed, to say the least. Spirit Reaper and Illblood. Illblood, I'm just kind of really just testing. It's another level 6 to help me get into those 8s. You know, I've had problems where Special Summon from Turtle, it's good because a lot of things that people attack Turtle with, these other guys, they may not be big enough to get over it. So Illblood, just go into Illblood, just run it over. Its effect to be able just to special summon from a normal summon can also be extremely effective. But I think I found that, again, very similar to Zombie Master. If they have any back rows, Illblood has been just not good. Or you draw it, and it's just not good. So to me, it's been more kind of like a almost Titanial. Oh shoot, I dropped the Super Reaper. Anyways, almost more like Titanial, where it's just you draw it, it takes up space in your hand. You summon it, it runs over 1, maybe 2 cards, but they'll probably have the card that outs it. And then Spirit Reaper, kind of the same. Spirit Reaper, it's cool if you open up weak. Maybe occasionally you'll get a direct attack in, but these are other cards that certainly weaknesses in the deck. If I changed up anything, I don't even know what I'd do. I like a lot of the main deck. I like the zombie lineup. I like the maliciouses. Like what needs to stay in my opinion. And really, a Chaos Sorcerer, if I could just count extra deck stuff, I would. But this stuff has to stay in my opinion in order to play against the meta and stuff like that. And Krebins can be like Deep Sea Diva, if not, maybe even like bump Mystic Tomato up a little bit. And these other cards, these, was it 6? I think this is your wiggle room, is these 6. I chose the Light Engine because Chaos Sorcerer, like I said, such a huge plus in this format. Raikou's hit the back rows. These 2 can kind of become anything. And then from the Spells and Traps, Pot of Avarice. I would say these are the 7 cards, move around. And if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. If you're seeing something, you're like, actually, it would be better with another tomato or whatever. Shoot, let me know. If you take out Spirit Reaper for Tomato, take out Ill Blood for another Book of Life, I'm all for it. When I make videos, it's all about communication. What do you guys think? What do I think? What do you see? I really took a bit longer this video because I wanted to explain as much of my thought process as possible because I love zombie decks. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Again, Dark-End Dragon and really Dark Ruler Hades. This is what zombies have that no one else has. Utilize it. I think it's very underutilized. We don't look at it enough, but you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. Bye.